I'm going to show you how to stitch the wild roses on this lovely sewing box here. So I've got my wild rose panel in my hoop here. I'm going to start off just with the outside of the petals. You can see I've done quite a lot of it anyway, and we're just the outside I've done in a simple back stitch. So I'm just putting a waist knot there, and then for a back stitch, if you're unfamiliar, you're going to take a little step forward and you're going to go back. You're going to take another little step forward and you're going to go back to where you ended last time, a little step forward, back to where you ended last time. So you're going to outline all of your petals in a back stitch. So I'm just going to complete this petal. Now if you do smaller stitches, it means that you can sort of ease your way around the curves a little bit easier. It's entirely up to you the effect you want. I've done 2 strands on this, and of course you're getting full instructions anyway in your kit, but I wanted it to show a little bit more colour, so that's why I've used the 2 strands, because wild roses are very pale. They're everywhere at the moment, aren't they? When I go for a walk, there's wild roses absolutely everywhere, which is why I really wanted to stitch them. So we'll just finish that. I'm just going to put that out the way. And then the little lines, again, I've just added a little bit of detail because I wanted to add that extra bit of colour without it being very solid. So for those, all I've done is just little straight stitches from the inside to the outside, and you can do as many or as few on each petal as you wish, but I found that sort of between 3 and 5, you can do varying lengths on those as well. Seems to be quite a good number for that. So that's your outline and the colour on your wild rose. Oops, got a little bit of a knot coming on there. The bud itself also is just a little bit of back stitch, but we've been through that. So let's look towards the centre, which I've got just used French knots on that. I know we've used lots of French knots in the past, so I'll just do a few. And you've got the yellow marked on the fabric as well to give you a bit of an outline. On this, because it's quite a large flower, I'm going to do a couple of wraps. So I'm going to pull my thread to the side, I'm going to wrap my needle a couple of times. I'm going to go back close to, but not in the hole that I came up from. Keep my thread fairly taut, not too tight, and then just gently pull through so that we don't get a knot in there, even though it's a French knot. So let's just do a couple more. Oh, I've got a bit of a knot in my thread there. I wonder if we can just ignore that, I think, and move on. Oh, we've got a little loop there, pull through, and we'll fill the centre in as well. There we go. And I've noticed with the wild roses that we've got around that the centres they sort of vary from yellow to brown to really deep yellows. So I thought we'll have a bit of a combination of thread that's a bit wayward there, haven't I come through, of those colours on this French knot centre. I'll just do one to fill in there, it's not such a large gap. Okay, so we've got our centre. I think we might need another one just in there to fill in the space, don't you? Let's pop one in there too. And I have got other videos on French knots if you want to see it just a little bit more slowly, but I did want to get as much in as I could. Then also on the centre, very similar to a French knot, that's what it's made from, but a knot that's new to us is a pistil stitch. So it's a French knot on a stick. So let's just show you that as well. Now again, I'm just going to use 1 strand for this because I want them quite fine. So I'm going to wrap my thread. We'll wrap it a couple of times to show. Go down at the end of my stitch, and at that point pull it taut, and then you can follow through with the rest of the French knot then. So let me do that again because that is a new stitch to us. So in at the centre, up at the centre, wrap it, down at the length I want the stitch, and then pull through for my French knot. So I'll work a few of those around the centre, and I'll show the finished article again in a few minutes so that you can see where all these stitches come in. And then just a couple of extras, French knots around, just to give the impression of lots and lots of stamens within that wild rose. So that's our pistol stitch stamens there. Let's get rid of that as well. Got a lot of thread going on at the bottom now. And let's move on to our leaves. Now I want 2 strands for my leaves again. And what I've used, I'm going to do this one. What I've used for these is a fly stitch, and I've used quite an open fly stitch. You can see there. You could stitch this really close together and get a really solid leaf, but I wanted it to be a little bit more delicate. So I'm going to start with just a little stitch at the very tip of the leaf, and then I'm going to continue with fly stitch. So I'm going to come up to the side, go across to the other side and down. I'm then going to come up just at the base of that original stitch on the centre vein there, pull it through and move down a little bit. For the next one, I'm going to go a little bit wider, across to the other side again, and again up at the base of the previous stitch and down a little way. And of course you can have these as wide or as narrow as you wish, so have fun playing with these. And up at the base there and down, and I think we can perhaps get a little one in the bottom there. And these are really quick to work up as well, which is sometimes quite nice. So let's go up to the base. Oh, can't find it, there we go. And let's go down there. And if you felt that you needed more in the terms of greenery there, you could always add some straight stitches on there as well. It's entirely up to you. So we're getting the basis there. Now, one of the flowers that I've got some sort of filler flowers on here, and you can see I've got little knots. Now you could use either a French knot or a Colonial knot on these, and you can see then I've got a little fly stitch around them. So let me just show you that Colonial knot. I think I've got all of my knots, all of my threads tied in here, so I can't get one out. Let's have a look. I'll have to have a Colonial knot in green, but that's okay, because I'm just going to show you how it works. So for a Colonial knot, it can be a French knot, it's entirely up to you. You're going to bring your needle up and you're going to hold your thread to one side. You're going to wrap your needle from one side to the other underneath, so it's underneath. Then you're going to hold it there, and you can actually hold the thread if it makes it easier, and then wrap the thread over the top and underneath, so you've got almost a little figure 8 going on. Then you're going to go down close to but not in the same hole, and then pull it through. Again, just keep a little bit of tension on your thread so that it keeps it under control, and you've got a lovely little knot there. And these filler flowers knots really make a difference to the design. So just let me run through that one again. So you're going to go underneath from one side to the other. Whilst your thread is there, maybe catch it and go over the top to create that little sort of figure 8. Pop your needle close to but not in the same hole. Pull it taut and then release it through. Just keep a little bit of tension on your thread as you're pulling it through to create those little knots. And that just, I think, really adds to the design. If I just show you this finished design again, you can see then that just because you've got a little bit more going on, then I think it just adds something special.